In the darkness of early morning, on the eastern coast of an abandoned peninsula, Nuke Tashino edged forwards towards the door of an ancient structure. He flipped the switch beside it, and with a whoosh, the darkness within was revealed. Nuke instinctively jumped back, but no danger emerged. "No crabs. Come on then," he reported over his shoulder. The gang marched up, hoping to get some rest in under this 3,000-year-old roof. But within moments, Nuke was barreling back through them, calling out the watchword, "Crabs! Crabs! Crabs!" Yes, this was crab country, and out-of-towners weren't welcome. The mystery of just who had locked a swarm of crabs in there was greater than that of the ruins' origins by a long shot. There were two possible explanations. Either some crab-wrangling hero had sealed the evil away, or the crabs had learned to open and close doors. Azumi favoured the latter hypothesis, for it fit well with the academic principle of Okran's razor. All things being equal, the theory that increases your probability of death the most is closest to the truth. Battered by wind and acid rain, and without even an exoskeleton to call home, the team were having a rather unsavoury night. Only by the chance discovery of another sealed ancient library, and by the vulgar-tongued charms of locksmith Nuke, did they find shelter, not to mention a load more books for Gary to lug about. "I don't get it," Nuke said in the morning, shaking his head. "It says here that ninjas are from Japan, as in the fantasy world in the novels, right?"
"You mean to say they emerged from the ancient texts? Wait. Could this be the power of the skeleton wizard your father sent us after?"
Isaiah reasoned. "Man, if stuff in the ancient texts becomes real, we're in big trouble. There was this guy who made your clothes just like melt away. Well, not for guys, actually. Sorry, history girl." "Yeah, I think it'll be fine. And just so you know, those books are talking about Earth." "Earth? Can you read? It's pronounced Japan." "Didn't they educate you in the palace, oh prince?" "Yeah, I've read all the ancient texts back to fucking front and they suck. But I remember enough to know it's pronounced Japan. Or was it Nippon?" "Ever wondered what that thing in the sky is?"
"I know,"
Els butted in.
"The big one is Akron, and the little one is Nurko, and the big one is the good one."
Charlie boy knows it. See, history girl, knowing stuff isn't really a special skill, so save the lectures, Nuke said. Sure. Let's stick with the skeleton wizard theory then, shall we?" Azumi huffed.
"It is the more reasonable explanation," Isaiah nodded. "Have you ever heard of Okran's razor?"
That morning, the crew began the march back home. They walked up to the northern coast of Howler's Maze and along the bumpy beaches that snaked west beneath the shadows of blackened skyscraper fragments. In one such shadow, a giant crab was striding about as if it was guarding the ancient secrets of the once great tower. Or that is how Nuke put it to Azumi when he advocated for fighting the creature. "We literally can't go back without defeating one giant crab. It's like, I don't know, going to Shobutai without getting enslaved. It's just what you do, right?" he argued. "Triumph over lesser beings is a mark of status," Gustafsson said. "Please proceed to slay the creature. I will observe your potential carefully." Hear that? Bad Green's observing our fucking potential. Can't back out now, can we?
"My prince, have you thought this through?"
Wadston asked, but Nuke was already rushing out to battle. Els followed his master, and Isaiah lifted up his sword and roared out before diving in too. The crab had seen the bunch and was already scuttling over to cut them down to size. Its snippy crab jabs were hard to follow. In the ensuing brawl, Els was knocked unconscious, and Isaiah broke a leg and an arm. But he was laughing almost manically as the crab slumped down into the sand and snip-snapped no more.
"I knew it,"
Isaiah said.
"Who's the giant crab now?"
"So, how'd we look?" Nuke asked Gustafsson. "You could not defeat the mega crab. You are unskilled," was the answer. "Not skilled?" Nuke shot back, but he said nothing else as blood ran down his forehead and got into his eyes, to say nothing of the resulting tumble across the dormant mass of an aptly named Bloody Els. Once the combatants were patched and picked up, the party carried on their way. They saw signs of civilization earlier than expected. On the edge of Howler's Maze, gangs of vagabonds, rebels, and manhunters were brawling up and down the bluffs. A few tried to stop our heroes from passing, but they soon backed away when Nuke pulled a giant severed crab claw from the baggage and announced himself as the Crab Slayer champion. He charged out, wielding the huge claw in both hands, and while he was too weak to actually swing it, the mere sight cleared the group a path through the melee. By 2 in the morning, the claw was hanging on the wall of the guild HQ. "Revenge," Nuke declared with a closed fist as he stood before the trophy.
Revenge!
Isaiah cheered.
I'm glad you feel things are settled, my prince,
Wadston said.
Yep, that'll teach those crabs to... What was the revenge for again?
Izumi asked.
You know.
The audacity of them, Nuke said.
Audacity. Big word. Maybe you are a little educated, mighty prince.
Oh, don't be like that. Look, we stole loads of the past, didn't we? Can't you just be happy?
I am perfectly happy. What? I mean, not literally. Or even...
Who wants crab for dinner?
Isaiah suddenly asked, and after much debate about how such a rare delicacy should be cooked, they enjoyed a dinner worthy of a prince. Or 3. You can taste the audacity, Nuke remarked.
I hope this is safe to eat,
Wadston said.
Your father would not forgive me if you fell ill.
I'm as healthy as a Garu.
With the face to match,
Izumi quipped. Yeah, who's the ninja of comedy now? Face to match, Nuke said, although it was hard to hear over the laughter filling the room. You take a crab jab to the stomach, you learn a life lesson, and it's the same with words. Whether Nuke learnt anything in particular in either case remains in contention. A few days later, Nuke gathered the crew again to discuss the next big thing in credit management. The Deadlands, he announced, hitting his stick against the map the group was sitting around. A land of pure opportunity. Isaiah looked like he was about to say something, but Nuke carried on strong. My wonderful assistant here, well, my agreeable look, history girl here, compared one of the maps I discovered.
Stole,
Izumi corrected him. My useless, greasy, slimy, unbearable dreg of an assistant.
I didn't do nothing to them maps,
Els added.
Oh, by Narco, I don't even.
I'm on such a straight edge here, just everyone shut up. How about this? I, on my own, with no credit due to anyone else, have discovered the location of an ancient, intact workshop. And that location is the Deadlands. So, we're going to the fucking Deadlands to discover, steal, whatever, some stuff, and then, I don't know, we'll have some stuff. Might get us a table and chairs or whatever. Any questions? There were quite a few questions, but the answer to most of them was no comment.
When they say Deadlands, am I to take it that the name is entirely inappropriate?
Wadston asked. Nuke shrugged, but Isaiah had the lowdown.
Oh, it's a very fitting name. Life is almost impossible there. Acid rain, toxic gas, the most foul weather, and certain rumors say there are mechanical soldiers of the Second Empire still prowling the Ashen Hills.
No giant crabs, though?
Izumi asked.
I suppose not. Well, either they won't be there at all, or they'll be even more giant. That's how it tends to go in my experience. You definitely want to go to such a place, my prince?
Wadston asked Nuke. I'll tell you once we're there, was the reply. A few days' halt were negotiated for preparations. Izumi continued writing notes on the ancient books they had collected before they were to be sold off, and Isaiah was tasked with finding, as Nuke put it, decoys. This translated into him hiring a pair of cheap mercenaries named Bobby and Claw. Gustafsson sniffed at them when they arrived in the HQ, and didn't look especially impressed. Which one's which? Nuke asked.
Bobby, Claw,
Isaiah said, pointing at each in turn. Shek or Pox?
Shek.
Cool, but they better be really weird. Got a thing going with my Shek collection.
Oh, they are most unusual. They've been on the run from agents of the Shek Kingdom for years. They even know your friends in the Shinobi Tower.
And do they say anything for themselves?
No, not at all.
Bobby, or was it Claw, held up a small chalk sign with an apology written on it. Nuke came forwards and shook their hands enthusiastically.
Weird as fog and bloody silent. Yes, Isaiah, my man. And they don't even stink. They smell like me.
They don't smell like you, Gustafsson corrected him from the corner.
Whatever. So, either of you ever killed a giant crab?
Another couple of days went by, and then in the dawn hours the guild gathered in the street outside the HQ, geared up and with their 2 new foot soldiers ready with huge swords to defend their princely master. Although, I'll let you in on a little secret. They weren't there to defend the prince that Nuke thought they were. Nuke had finally left his noble robes at home and wore loose-fitting grey and black wraps all the way up to his eyes. Now the rebels surely wouldn't give him any trouble, as he looked just like one of them. There couldn't possibly be any trouble on the horizon for looking like a rebel though, could there? It wasn't that bad really. It was at least 2 or 3 horizons over at the closest. The Deadlands awaited, but there were other various regions they would have to cross to reach it, which were no less dead themselves. First was the uneventful walk out of the desert and into the Heng Highlands, passing by the other end of the basin that Trader's Edge overlooked to its west. Then they passed through the corpse of a creek between 2 near vertical mountains and out into another stretch of yellow desert. This was the Skim Sands. With any luck, it was just a name. Not a chance.
Fucking run, you morons!
Nuke shouted when Bobby and Claw drew swords to face a wave of skimmers flying across the sand. The crew fled over a ridge and saw Sanctuary not so far away. There was a huge metallic tower atop a mesa marking the end of a scorched mountain range that rose up towards the northwest. They raced the skimmer horde towards this looming mushroom-shaped castle. The skimmers, strangely, seemed unwilling to get close to it and returned to the desert. What a relief. Even better, around the base of the mesa there were United Cities troops, samurai, patrolling about.
Where is this? We've got men here,
Nuke puzzled.
I've never heard of such an outpost, my prince. Although,
Wadston said. Although what?
There was always a place that people mentioned in the palace, now and again. The vault.
Vault? Like money vault? Wait, is Dad holding off on me? Is my inheritance in that fuck-off citadel so I can't fucking... That man is a monster!
Before anything else could be said, Nuke ran to the fortified checkpoint on the mesa's shallower side. The guards closed ranks and barked at him from a distance.
Step any closer and lose your life, ninja scum!
What? I'm not a ninja. Well, I am a ninja, but like, I'm the prince.
We could kill you for just saying that, you dreg. Get lost!
No, you get out of my way! I need to inspect your garrison and rest. Official Empire business.
Nuke had been walking closer as he spoke, and perhaps the only reason he hadn't been run through with spears was that tasty audacity of his. The guards couldn't believe a real ninja would try such a brazen, obvious trick, so they feared some deeper, invisible trick was afoot. Was this guy trying to get attacked as part of his plan? Pondering this made them slow to react when Nuke suddenly bolted forwards and ran past them. The alarm was sounded as Nuke dashed up the ramp to the top of the mesa, carved from the rock face by slaves of centuries past. At the top he entered the huge ancient warehouse and found a dozen more samurai eyebrows rise in surprise, and then a half-dozen blades unsheathed.
I'm the prince, where's my inheritance?
Nuke shouted, but his dashing about the place didn't seem all that legitimate, you must admit. Strangely, there was no gold or silver to be seen. Nuke was about to ask after it again, but with 20 trained samurai now bearing down on him from all directions, he decided he'd have to take it up with head office sometime instead. The rest of the group were standing awkwardly outside, listening to the shouting and ringing of bells from the tower above them.
They cannot tell he is of princely station. These soldiers are not suitable for use,
Gustafsson commented.
Sure, so should we really be standing here too? Pretty sure they're gonna kill us in a minute,
Izumi said.
Wait, we can't leave without the prince,
Wadston insisted.
He's got to be dead by... Oh, Ockran's blood.
Nuke was spotted sprinting down the ramp at full pelt, with a platoon of samurai clattering after him.
We could always start running now, get warmed up,
Isaiah suggested. It was a fine idea. Nuke blasted past the lower checkpoint and followed his crew down to the southern strip of the Skim Sands. This stretch of desert was host to a huge beast skeleton, large enough to rival the nearby mountains. It was the most amazing thing the crew had ever glanced at while crossbow bolts kicked up sand around them and heavy boots stomped without relent on their tails. In front of them, the desert petered out and the ground rose up to a char-soiled labyrinth of valleys known as the Black Desert. The samurai no longer pursued them, but as they all drew in deep breaths to recover, they couldn't help but notice how their throats cloyed and their chests convulsed.
"Ah, what is this?" Izumi said.
"This land is soiled,"
Isaiah told her.
"Els, can you breathe?"
"No, master."
"Must be really soiled then. We must go back, my prince,"
Wadston said, but Nuke was already pointing forwards.
"The Deadlands are over those hills. We can make it." "Couldn't help but notice that the only difference between the Deadlands and the non-Deadlands is that they kill you in a different way," Izumi said.
"Yes, that's a fair way of putting it. Such is the stage of any adventure,"
Isaiah said, setting off behind Nuke to jog towards the aforementioned coal-coloured hill, clouded in a dark fog and decorated with the occasional flash of light and a sound like thunder. This new sanctuary was probably going to be just as good as the last one. They reached the top of the hill, and before them were the sprawling lowlands of death, apparently. Couldn't see a thing on account of it being a smoggy new moon midnight in the land of darkness. "Wadston, map!" Nuke called. The doctor obeyed. "We're between the Deadlands here and the Black Desert here," he reported. "Cool. Doesn't sound that cool," Izumi commented. "No, it's cool because it means the ruin is like right there." "Where?" "There!" Nuke was pointing into the void. That is to say, he wasn't pointing at anything. "So, we're just gonna run off into the fog, or fumes, or whatever the faggle that is?" "Yes, and I feel like you need to tone it down on the language." Before Izumi could tone it up on the language, a huge bolt of lightning flashed nearby, and the ground exploded up, showering the crew with hot, toxic dirt.
"We need to get off the high ground,"
Isaiah said. "It's a race to the bottom," Nuke announced as he began his speedy advance. Everyone followed him down the steep slope ahead of them. Further flashes of lightning revealed some kind of lake at the bottom, overlooked by looming shadows of ancient silos, towers and pipes. A few minutes later, a burning rain began to fall. All the more reason to follow Nuke as he ranged around the lakeside towards a complete silhouette of an ancient workshop.
"It hurts a bit, master. Can we go inside?"
Els asked. "Not yet, just gotta check something." "Checking for crabs?" Izumi asked. "Just for you, honey." The door to the workshop was open, but there was no light coming from inside. Nuke quickly ran up, even more quickly gave up on trying to spy through the windows on account of the driving sheets of acid falling down on him, and went inside. As he crossed the threshold, the lights suddenly switched on, and there was movement all around him. Before he could reach for his sword, he was surrounded by skeletons. And yes, now is finally the time to clarify that to our heroes, the word skeleton referred to the artificial folk of the old empire. These robots had been workers in the ancient human civilization, although the role had also been reversed for a while. Luckily for Nuke, the skeletons huddled in this lonely workshop were of the classic subservient variety.
"Master! Protect the master! Welcome, master!"
They chirped here and there, although they would say nothing else.
"What? Who are you?" Nuke asked.
"Error!"
was the simple reply. Any other question made equal progress. When Nuke tried to move, the skeletons clustered around him like a screen of bodyguards. Nuke called everyone else in.
"Having trouble, Prince Tashino?"
Isaiah asked. "No, not at all. I think I might have accidentally become the leader of a robot army."
"Is that so? I mean, you've said as much before, but unless it's the toxic gases playing with my mind, I think this is more than bad green. Mr. Wadston?"
"I do believe these robots are quite real, although the toxicity of the air is a concern." "Yeah, but there are seriously like 30 skeletons in here," Izumi noted, not willing to go very close to any of them. "Fug, yeah. I'm the Lord of Skeletons," Nuke announced. It was surprisingly hard to argue against it. He had shelter for the night and a new robot army to play with.
This adventuring business was reaching a whole new level, and as he would learn the next morning, that wasn't the only secret hidden in the treacherous Deadlands, and certainly not the biggest one.